Later.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Everything College Basketball Podcast, episode 227. I'm, of course, your host, Josh Burton, and joining me today is a teammate of mine, Michael DeRosa. Trevor Everett, our other teammate, will be here shortly. Real life work stuff. He will be on here very shortly. But, Michael, we are in a celebratory mood today because we crowned our new national champions last night in San Antonio in the Alamo Dome in a really great national championship clash between Florida and Houston. For the third time in school history, the national championship heads back to Gainesville. We talked a lot about basically since mid-January until this point now about how Florida was the most complete team. They had the best collection of guards, and they had the best closer in college basketball. And boy, lo and behold, the Gators came through in the end, winning the SEC tournament championship, and then going through the March through Madness the last 3 weeks and winning their third national championship in school history. What a Final Four as a whole. What a national championship game, and what a season. I cannot believe we're at the end of it already.
Yeah, man, it's gone by fast. And, I mean, credit that Florida team, too. They had a pretty tough road to get there, all things considered. Round one was round one, but, Norfolk wasn't horrible, I guess. But, round two, UConn, that was not an easy game. That was a game, frankly, they probably should have lost, but they ended up finding a way and winning it because, as you mentioned, they have the best closer in college basketball. Beat a very talented Maryland team with a very talented starting five. That Texas Tech team was also really, really good that they beat. And then you have to beat Auburn. And then in the national title game, again, come back from behind, beat an awesome Houston team, an excellent Houston team. Full credit to Florida. They were awesome all year. Clayton was amazing. The bigs showed up in this game. Houston was kind of dominating the glass early. They didn't really have that advantage towards the end of the game. The bigs really showed up. They did their work. And Will Richard, Elijah Martin, Denzel Aberdeen were all just awesome.
Will Richard in particular, really saved Florida. We'll talk about that game a little more in depth when Trevor joins us here shortly, because there's a lot to get into from the national championship game last night, but just kind of talking about Florida as an overarching theme here. Great team. You talk about roster construction in the modern era. Todd Golden laid the foundation of how to do this. And I know Danny Hurley, of course, had the perfect blend, but the last couple of years have really shown us something about roster construction as we add. Trevor finally joined us here at the top of the show. Trev, we were just talking about kind of the overarching theme of Florida from basically the last couple months since mid-January, but I was making the point of Todd Golden and even Danny Hurley the last couple years, roster construction for these national championship teams of the last 3 years have been perfect. You bring in talented players, some youngsters that can kind of feed in, but they're based around veteran guards. You win with your guards. You have bigs inside that can rim protect. Florida did a little differently than UConn did the last couple of years. They didn't have the big 7'2" guy you could throw in the post and go get a bucket. But Florida's roster construction, they could switch everything. They rebounded the hell of the ball, and they had guards that can make shots. Todd Golden figured this thing out on how to build a team to win a title.
It's actually, this is an incredible way to jump right in. I actually think it's even simpler than that. You don't have to include tall guy, big guy, guard. They literally built it based on analytics. They said, we're going to go out and find under-recruited guys. They didn't have a single 5-star, either to Houston, all things considered. We know how that culture is built. But they did this overnight, basically. I know Walter Clayton's been there 2 years, but it's a credit to everybody on that staff. That is that's a staff we all are going to look back on. And we're talking VCU 2011. This is that kind of staff, two sitting head coach. The moment the buzzer sounded, they lost two coaches to be sitting head coaches at Campbell and Columbia. And then you have other guys that Coach Pear really likes Harlan as well. He's another great guy as well. That staff is, it's literally loaded with guys that understand analytics and understand how to build a roster using them. And that's exactly what they did. And I can't wait to watch these guys all go off in different directions and use that same philosophy and make some of these programs that have been somewhat dormant in recent years and turn them into winners, because clearly Todd Golden embraced it a long time ago. Just to think his San Francisco teams were really good, but that was his first win in the NCAA tournament. this year.
Yeah.
And wins a
Round
national
one,
championship because he built the roster the way he did. And I have like 10 more minutes on that. I'm not going to do that because we've got a real thing to talk about. But like, it's not even just like the way the roster was built to win the game. It was the way the roster was built to be a sustainable long term and use what we know about analytics now.
Yeah, Michael, I think those are great points as far as analytically speaking. And again, you have a young guy that's really bought into the analytic part of it. Like we've talked about it this all year and even into last year. Like a lot of the older coaches are, stubborn in their ways. But then you get a Todd Golden that fully embraces this. He's like, yeah, I want my 4-man shooting threes. Yeah, I want lengths where I can switch 1 through 5 on any pick and roll switches. Yeah, we want to spread the floor and play fast. Like, I think that's a lot to it as well, the analytic part of it. And something we've talked about, like you either adapt and you thrive in ever-changing landscapes in life in general, or you don't and you eventually fizzle out. Florida's building something. As long as Todd Golden's there, he's only, 37, becomes the youngest coach since Jimmy Valvano in 83 won a title. Like, there's no reason to think Florida can't keep building on this year after year for a decade plus, or maybe even longer at this point.
No, absolutely. And I think the analytics point, I definitely think part of it, but also part of it is just, they just nailed the evaluations. Like Walter Clayton just kind of showed up in their lap because he was he either wanted to come home or play for Rick Pitino. He decided he was going to come home. Like, you get kind of lucky with guys like that. And any team that ever wins a national title got lucky to some degree. Obviously, I'm not trying to
Did he get lucky to even make it to the Final Four to be there and win?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I'm not trying to use that as a point to be oh, they weren't a deserving champion, because that's just not true. They were definitely a deserving champion. You have to have some bounces of luck. In that case, it's there. But they nailed the Will Richard evaluation. He was I believe they said on the broadcast, he was the first guy to commit to Golden.
Yep.
Yeah, to commit to Golden at Florida. And then we look at some of the other pieces they got. Thomas Howell was a 3-star.
Yeah,
nailed that evaluation. I don't know what other high major programs are rooting him. They nailed evaluations too. I don't know how much of that is just solely on building the roster with numbers. It's just they found guys.
I would bring it up because that's literally how they built the roster. I mean, there's plenty. Athletic did an incredible piece on it. I believe there's one more outlet somewhere near in Gainesville or someone that covers the Gators closely. I mean, there's no secret that's how they did it. But yes, you have to if you're going to take a swing on the number, I'm not comparing it to Moneyball because nothing will ever be like that. Josh is a baseball guy out of all of us, I think, and even he can probably just very quickly tell us the movie doesn't know justice. They literally built that roster with nickels and dimes. It was wild, and that's not what Florida did. But no, you're right. You have to take the number. You have to take what you believe in and what the analytics are telling you. And I can't wait because one of the guys I mentioned, one of the assistants, is going to be in my backyard. I'm going to cover him minimum 18 times next season. I can't wait to talk about that and hear that process to see how much of that is meshing together with nailing the evaluation and the analytics. I just want to make sure I made that point because it's really impressive when you really think about how they did it.
Yeah. Well, also to that too. I mean, the fact that they were able to get their former starting center, he started the first 2 years prior to the injury. Micah Hanlogton came back. And immediately he's I just want to help this team. I'm not demanding my starting center spot back. Chinule can have it. Just let me come in and play 15 minutes a game and help. I think that says to the culture of what Todd Golden has clearly built around this program right now, where a guy who was your starting center, an all SEC center, comes back and just play me 15 minutes. I just want to be a part of this team because I think we're really good and we can win. And a guy like Denzel Aberdeen. Look, as a sophomore, we see it all the time. His numbers weren't eye-popping. You're talking about a 6'5" guard that can really go get hot at times, attacking the rim, got a nice little shot, and can defend. Look, he could be a hot commodity in the portal and could go to different places and start. And he said, no, I'm staying home, and I'm playing these minutes that I'll play. 40, I think, usage-wise or minutes-wise, it was 40% or something like that. Coming off the bench. They kept him at home and kept him out of the portal. It's just there's something special that Todd Golden is clearly building right now. And that leads me into my question to you guys. We'll get into the games and how Florida comes back from to beat Houston and all that here in just a second. But I want to ask about Florida because Todd Golden is only 37, because they do have some pieces coming back. They've got decent recruits coming in, and you think now that they'll dip their toes finally into the transfer portal because they have time now finally. it seems like this train will just keep rolling and rolling. Not every year will be a Final Four national title year, but it looks like as long as Golden's there, this train's not stopping. Let's say a 5-year outlook, maybe even a 10-year outlook ahead, as long as Todd Golden stays there. What do you guys see in Florida's future? Because to me, it looks like we're on the precipice, maybe not a dynasty, but like a really special run coming up.
I have one small thought on this, so good.
Yeah, this was like the first time I've thought of it, so I would go.
Thought about this last night.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say they're on the precipice of a dynasty. Like, I mean, looking at the roster, I think they'll be pretty good next year. Obviously, like just based on some of the guys they return, you lose Clayton, obviously, who was only okay. Like, I don't think Walter Clayton was anything special. I don't know if you guys would disagree with that. I was being sarcastic there, by the way. But like,
I tweeted last night. He's like, we're talking Kemba Shabazz. Like, this is it. Like, I'm in there with him. So
I was actually talking with somebody. That's another point. But like, I don't think his run hit the level of Kemba, but like, it is the closest thing we've seen since Kemba.
Since Shabazz. Shabazz was pretty impressive. They were way underseeded. Obviously, we know that now.
Yeah. But like, I don't know if I'd say they're a dynasty, but like, they're going to be a program that's going to be competing around this range for a long time. I feel like they'll be in like that top 15 range for the next few years, give or take. One great year they're in the top 5, one bad year they're like fringe top 25, but they're going to be in that 15 range for quite a while.
Yeah, I'm not even going to pull it up their history under Todd Golden because it's not long enough, Josh. Like I immediately I'm not, as someone who does NBA content 24/7 when I'm not doing college basketball content, the dynasty thing, it's just I want to throw up when I hear the word dynasty because there's only really ever been like 8 of them. We don't have time to do that today. But no, I get your point. And at the end of the day, I guess the way I'll just say, I'll go with where I was going to go with it. When I say I thought of this last night, I thought of, there was moments, and I love that. For those watching on YouTube, you just got a nice surprise when Michael turned his camera off. Love that photo. Wow, that completely derailed my thought. No, so the thing I kind of thought through last night when I watched a couple of different moments as Florida was making the comeback, when they both were down and when they were coming back, there was a timeout. I want to say it was the under 8. I may be wrong. They were really getting back into it, but they were down still. It was the second half, and they went to timeout, and they did that angle of the guy with the camera under the basket, and where they point directly at one of the benches, the head coaches, how they're interacting as they come to the bench, and they kind of circle up, and they showed Todd Golden smile. They're down. Smile on his face, and I think it was Richard. He like taps his chest, and he's like, "We're good, baby. We got it." You can kind of see like it was like there's moments where he's on the stage with the hat, whatever. He's obviously so young; he looks the part of a young coach. There's moments where like, and this is no knock to Kelvin Sampson, Dan Hurley, any of those more passionate, fiery guys, because Kelvin, I again talked about it many times, had a chance to meet him, had a chance to be around the program a little bit. Like even though he is very animated and deservingly so in a lot of those instances, he is one of the most like heartfelt touch those men's lives kind of coach. I think Golden really just I think he's just a player's coach. I really do. I think it's that simple. That moment I think is the one I'll look back on in 5 years, 10 years when guys are just like, man, Todd's the best dude. Da, da, da. We know all the stuff that allegedly happened, prior to the season for them to go through that and now be in a position that they're in is even just speaks to maybe him and that staff a little bit more. But I thought about it last night and I wondered if this was going to come up, and just that moment specifically. And really a lot of those moments when things aren't going well, you don't have to berate your guys. You don't. Yep. This is in no way a shot at Dan Hurley, but I'm just going to make it known. That's just not everyone's cup of tea. And guys have to understand that. And granted, you got to have the motor and you got to have the drive to play for Dan Hurley. I get it. But that very well doesn't mean somebody like Walter Clayton could have played for him. But I understand why Walter Clayton wants to play for Todd Golden. I would want to play for Todd Golden.
I completely agree that there's a shift in mentality of because you're seeing it a lot more now. Golden, Pope, Kevin Young, like all these really good coaches that made Sweet 16 and beyond, real calm and collected. I think that's a really good point. Connor, we love you, bro. Thank you for following along with us live again, as always. Boring and uninteresting. I beg to differ. I think it was
I think because let me defend him. I think it's satire because of the bottom part.
Yeah.
I'll just say that.
Yeah. Actually, you guys want to know a Crown fun fact?
Nebraska won it. There's your fun fact.
Yeah, Nebraska won, and they're the only team ever to have a Crown tournament, though, to win the Crown, to win the NIT, and to have 0 NCAA tournament wins.
Well, yeah, I'm not gonna.
So
I do
they're
want
the
to address this really
kings
quick.
of
Before we're done.
non-physical tournaments. That's great.
Yeah.
I do want to address this. I know we got to get to Final
Yeah.
Four and stuff.
No, you're
the
good. Take
basketball
your time.
incomplete.
Go ahead.
I do want to.
Yeah.
I do want to address this because we just got
Yeah.
the numbers an hour ago. I don't know if you guys have seen them yet. Not
Yeah.
live reaction. National Championship game delivered 18.1 million viewers. Most watched Final Four weekend since 2017. Monday's National Championship game averaged 18.1 million, 22% most watched. I already said that. Florida Houston peaked with 21.1 million viewers for game's conclusion. Final Four weekend averaged 16.4 million over the last 3 seasons, up 21%, best in 8 years. And tournament viewership across TBS, CBS, TNT, and True TV averaged 10.2 million viewers, which is up 3%. The NBA Finals best game last year was 12.3 million.
Dude, yeah, and that's a great, and obviously, clearly, we know Peyton, so Peyton's against being satire, having satire there, but
led right into the point though.
Exactly. But no, I think there's a reason why. And college basketball as a whole was up this year. Numbers were up for the season as a whole. Because, guys, again, we're talking about this. We talked about it at the beginning of the year. Players are coming back now because of NIL, so you have familiarity. You have these top freshmen coming in here lately, like Cooper Flagg. Next year be AJ DeBonsa, the Boozer twins, Darren Peterson, like these elite level talents. Teams are going to be really good. There's a wider variety of teams. And then I think with the NCAA tournament in particular, there was no Cinderella runs, but we talked about it after the first, second weekends when we did our Sweet 16 show. It made for better games. I think more people tuned in probably to the Sweet 16 and beyond because you're like, holy hell, we're about to get Houston, Purdue, and Duke, and Arizona, and yada, yada, yada. I just think that helps. Now, will it help every year if there's always chalk? No. But you need that mix, and this year it turned out to be great. We got a great Final Four. I don't care what anybody says. We had a great Final Four.
It's the greatest Final Four I can remember in recent memory.
I saw, I believe Matt, shout out Matt St. Jean, he put this in our group chat yesterday. It was in this Final Four, every team that was leading at the U4 media timeout, the final media timeout lost. Yeah.
That's
crazy.
Nuts.
Makes for good theater.
It really does. Let's talk about the Final Four games happened on Saturday that led us into last night's national title game. Staying on the Florida topic here. Playing Auburn. Auburn, I thought for the first half was spectacular. Like they looked like the Auburn that we talked about the majority of the year, leading up until they kind of faltered with losing 4 of their last 5 down the stretch. I thought they were great. Chad Baker-Mazara making plays. They got great. Janai Broome looked like he could not be stopped whatsoever. And then Florida does what Florida does. They find a rally. They were able to stifle Auburn. And then that dude, Walter Clayton, starts making – like when he's in that mode, we've talked about it how many times this year, gentlemen. When he's in that mode, you can't stop him. Hand in his face, hand right there, 2 people, sidestep, 3, bam, in your eye. What a great game. Good comeback from Florida. What was your guys' impressions coming out of that first game on semifinal Saturday there when Florida made the comeback to knock off Auburn to go to the national title game?
Yeah, I texted you guys about this. I've still thought about it like a good 30 minutes a day. How did Bruce Pearl not call a timeout from like the 15-minute mark to like 30 seconds left in that game?
I love Coach's take on that one.
He was shell-shocked, right? He had to be.
It had to have been because like
he's been there before though. I don't know.
They couldn't hold on to the ball. Like it was just like they were making really sloppy mistakes. Like they just needed a reset. Like they were fine, but they would just like fumble the ball out of bounds or just like stuff like that. Like they dribble it off their foot or like they wouldn't make the right pass or that pass would be too high. It's just like you need to reset. Like just slow it down, reset. We're fine. Let's keep going. But no, they just kind of kept going. And Josh will probably attest to this as he responded to me back. Like a couple calls even went their way. It's like, this is the perfect time to reset. You've gotten this bounce that you need. Let's reset. And they just got a couple calls, but they just kept fumbling it out of bounds. And it's like, and then some of the shots they did make were like kind of fluky. It's like, what? Just call a timeout, reset this. But no, they didn't. And like, I believe they ended up going home with 2 timeouts.
I'll push back on the Pearl thing only because he's been there, and I just think too highly of him. I get it though.
Well,
I mean,
I was going to give you a counterpoint to that too.
Yeah, hold on though.
Please.
Like
Yep.
the point about they don't need a point guard, right? Because that team clearly ran through Janai Broom. That was like the plan from literally the moment the ball tipped on November 4th. But like having a steady piece in that moment that wasn't a true freshman who had 2 points, that was the thing that kept coming out to me was they had Florida had shocker. Florida had Walter Clayton and Auburn didn't. Like it got that simple. Like it just was one of the things like you don't need a point guard nowadays, but it just kept coming up where it was like, well, I mean, you could have a trio of them, right? I mean, like you don't need like a one guy, right? Obviously, Walter Clayton's kind of a bad example of that, of me saying that, but they didn't have one guy that they could say, hey, even if he's not the go-to Walter Clayton type of scorer, they didn't have a guy to settle the game is what I was agreeing with and making sure that was known because I just think they didn't have that. That was a glaring thing.
Real quick, just fundamentally how I view the game of basketball. I just think teams that have like multiple guys who can like truly run an offense. I think those are the teams I want to trust in March. Like, I mean, the UConn team last year was Tristan Newton, but like you also had like you could put the ball in Cam Spencer's hands and nobody was batting an eye. You could put the ball in whoever's hands and you were just going to be fine. 2 years ago, Andre Jackson was that guy. He could run the offense and you were A-okay. Like I really just think having multiple like true ball handlers, even like the Villanova teams back in the day, Arch, Jalen Brunson were on the same team. Jalen Brunson, Colin Gillespie, like guys like that. Like I think if you have multiple guards who can really run an offense, I think that separates the good from the elite in March. And for this Florida team, I mean, they ran a lot of off-ball stuff for Clayton. That's what got Clayton going first. And then they were able to take it off because you're able to run the offense through a Will Richard, through a Denzel Aberdeen, was handling it quite a bit. Yep. Then Walter Clayton gets going off the ball. Then he sees that first one go through, and it's like, oh, shit, he's back. And that pushed him over the edge.
No, I agree. Look, we don't know because we're not in Bruce's mind here. But I will say from experience and talking to some other people, like just sometimes in the moment, whether you've been there or not, I think maybe Bruce saw that, holy crap, this lead is going away. Like this special season's kind of going. And I think maybe not froze is the best word, but there's something like psychological that happens where you're like, I know I probably need to call timeout, but I trust my guys to kind of pull us out of the fire because I've done it all year. And then probably by the time it was too late to call a timeout, he's like, shit. And I bet if somebody sat down with him for an exclusive interview and asked him about that and really, really dove in, he may say, yeah, I probably should have called it, but I trusted my team or whatever. Florida's defense, and we're going to talk about it, the final couple possessions in the Houston game. You know, top 10 all year, basically. They ended the year in well, not all year, but they got down there the last month or two of the season, but they ended the regular season with a top 10 defense. And we rave about their offense because they can go put 100 up on you every night. But again, in this Auburn game, when they made the comeback and when it was nut cutting time, that defense was spectacular. Like Thomas Howe or Chinule inside being a rim protector, a big body rebounding, and the guards nonstop switching. It looks like they're closing out late, but then they're getting out just in time to make you scramble in your mind to be like, oh crap, I have an open shot. No, I don't. I'm going to put the ball on the deck. When you put the ball on the deck, they're swarming from the corners. They're rotating over weak side help. Florida's defense, man, just so underrated, even though they were a top 10 defense all year. Talk to me, one of you two, whatever you guys' thoughts about that, because I thought the final 6-7 minutes of that game completely blew up just about anything Auburn wanted to do, especially when they tried to run their flex offense. Florida was just switching everything or staying at home on that baseline cut and just like, you're not going to get it from us. No more easy stuff.
What was so impressive was like the whole first half for Auburn, like they were the more physically dominant team. They just, and not just the front court, just in general. Like I kept watching this and like, I wasn't necessarily going, well, it's over now. Cause that would have been stupid of me to think of that of Florida. Right. Cause Florida clearly did what they did for a reason. And honestly, they're never dead, even under 4 timeout, like not dead. We've clearly seen that. The second half, they were just able to completely flip the script. How they did it, honestly, I don't get paid to do this, and even if I did, I probably don't have that answer. And so how you flip a script like that. Todd Golden, I think actually it may have been the Auburn game. He said at halftime when he got interviewed, he was like, you know, we just need to stick to our game plan, and their game plan was to be more physical and to kind of muck that. I mean, clearly the game planning at Houston was to be more physical, and that's a really hard. That is literally an almost impossible task. I have a stat for that game later. I'll read that supports it. And they just flipped the script. Again, how they did it, I'm honestly still trying to figure it out. And that game was Saturday.
Yeah, I think part of it was, as Trevor mentioned, they were pretty physical. Like what they were doing when Broom would like cut back doors, they were just kind of getting someone like on him, just getting someone to feel
On the
him.
bad
And that was
arm
really
too, by the
perfect.
way. On the
Yeah.
bad arm
Oh,
too,
Oh
which
yeah.
was really,
Oh
really
yeah.
nasty. I started to notice
they
it about
hit
halfway
it.
through the game. Yeah, no, they were.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it
Hey,
was
how
that game
many?
could have been that game could have been real physical, real fast.
Yeah. How many accidental times did his arm get hit where Florida players was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
Yeah. Definitely a handful. Definitely a handful. It was stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like
I enjoyed the theater. I did. I enjoyed
yeah.
the theater.
And
Yeah.
like just looking at like the box score, really the only guy who was able to get going from 3 on Auburn was Chad Baker Mazar with a broken hand. That's the guy they're letting shoot. Like you're letting the guy with the brace on his hand shoot
Literally
7 threes. He makes 4 of them. Throw your hands up. You're like, okay, that's fine. But like Miles Kelly couldn't get going. Denver Jones had a couple open looks that he missed, but for the most part, they were like pretty tough shots he was taking. Todd Pettiford had nothing. I mean, they just completely took him out of the game. And I like full credit to them. They battled on the defensive glass towards the end of the game. And yeah, it was really just a lot of like they were just kind of in someone's grill a little bit and took Auburn out of rhythm. They couldn't find a rhythm.
He looked like, for the first time in a long time, he looked like a freshman on that stage, because we've raved about him all year about his poise and ability to make plays. He looked like a freshman in that game, and that's going to happen. That's the risk you take sometimes with these freshmen. 3 turnovers, only 7 points. Didn't really get the contributions from him you normally do. But Florida rallies. Walter Clayton goes nuts down the stretch. Florida moves to the national title game. The second game of the night was a doozy. Boy, it was a doozy. Duke, Houston. Look, Duke dominated this game.
I need to cut you off, Josh. I'm looking at KenPom. I looked at Todd Pettiford's page. I was just clicking through just because. The players he's like compared to, freshman year, Askia Booker. Do you remember Askia Booker from Colorado?
Vaguely.
Name sounds sort of familiar.
And then the other 2, freshman Carson Edwards and freshman RJ Davis.
Okay, so
those are the similar players.
Interesting.
So I saw that. I felt like I had to bring it up. Like we don't
have enough time for those last 2. I would be here all day talking about those last 2 comps. That's interesting.
Look, I could see it. I mean, the way Edwards played, the way Davis played, a little bit, but interesting. Second game of the night, though, incredible. Like Duke, what'd they lead for this game? 30 some minutes.
If you would like.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Actually, keep going. I'm going to pull it up. I want to make sure I have the right one in front of me.
Yeah, I mean, Duke led for 85% of this game, 90% of this game. And it felt like there was a point in time where it felt like this game was over. Duke was up 14 at one point with 8:17 to go. I think later on they were up 14 again as well.
I have it.
And then, yeah, go ahead.
Because you just said 14. That's why I'm glad. This is perfect. Duke led by 14 with 8:03 to play. 9 with 2:06. 6 with 34 seconds.
That's crazy.
3 with 25 seconds. 1 with 19 seconds, and they lost the game.
Do you know who had flashbacks from that? Kansas players and Kansas fans watching that. Yeah.
Yep.
Someone asked me actually at work on Monday. They go like, "Oh, Duke." They just kind of like, they know that I do this, and they know that we do this, but they just like kind of gave I can't believe Duke gave that game away. And I go, that Houston literally already did this in February, and they were like, "Really?" I was like, "Yes, it was on national." I was like, "Never mind." I was like, "I'll put that down." But
they in Allen Fieldhouse, in Allen Fieldhouse, their ability, like the resilience of this team, goes to Kelvin Sampson's culture that he has built. A team that's littered with really great talent, but not the high end 5-star future NBA prospects that like Duke has on the other end. And both styles work. They both made to the Final Four, and either one could have won this game and went on to win national championship. So there's really no right way or wrong way to do this. It just goes to show Kelvin Sampson has a certain type of player he wants. A player that's going to buy into the system, that's going to buy into the culture of hard work. You defend, you play for your teammates. And if you do all those things, you will have a chance at success. And that's what won out in the end. That's how they were able to come back against Kansas against all odds, 6 points down under 30 seconds, come back, drag it to overtimes, win the game. 6 points down, 30 seconds against Duke, and come back and win a game to go to the national championship. This is a culture program type of win right here. Trevor, you've been on the Houston bandwagon for the last few years that I've known you. Speak to it, because this is very much, when you think of Houston and you hear the word culture, this final 8 minutes is what Houston culture is all about.
Yeah, I will give you an abbreviated version of it because I've done it on this podcast for 2.5 years. People can go listen to it. And then I interviewed Kevin Sampson. Like I said, I can post the link and all that stuff. I do want to bring this up, though. You mentioned Duke's collapse. We talked about it, and I found another stat that we definitely should mention. Duke is the only team ever in an NCAA tournament game to have a higher field goal percentage, more free throw attempts, more assists, fewer turnovers, and more steals than their opponent, and still lose. Teams were 335-0 doing that. So to your point about culture, look, I spent one weekend with them at Charleston Classic. The point I always like to make sure I always bring up, if it ever comes up on air, off air, it doesn't matter, is that all of that stuff about culture, and I don't think really anybody questions it. Let's be honest for a second. Like, no one really questions it, right? Because of what he did. Like, he got pushed out of college basketball because he made too many phone calls. Like, let's just call it what it is. Like, that came up again today. I'm not going to hear it. When you hear about a guy, there's so many. I'll try to find as many of the articles as I can, and I'll link them and the show when it comes out on YouTube. But there are so many examples of guys and their families and their careers. Like, Jamal Shedd's not an NBA player without Kelvin Sampson. He's not. That's just straight up the truth. Marcus Sasser is not a Detroit Pistons rotation player right now if it wasn't for Kelvin Sampson. You can say that about any coach you could have played for, but I truly believe that. There's no fact to back it up. It's what I'm saying. But their practices are intense. All those videos that resurface now because they're in the spotlight, those are all real. Like, there's accountability. I think is really the word I would summarize this. There's accountability in the program. You hear about stuff all the time. Like, Bruce Pearl's son is his associate head coach, but like, his daughter is the director of basketball external operations, right? She played just as much of a part in that program being built in the culture as he did, right? Her being around the program, you could, John Fanta said the other day, you can count the amount of people in the stands when Houston, when he took over. You could count in the old Fertitta Center, whatever it was called before. You could say, oh, there's the 15 people at this game, right? And her job is to build that program, build that culture. And his daughter did an incredible job, and they've obviously come as far as you can come to literally almost beat Florida in that moment. I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't root for him a little bit. Like I said, I've had a chance to talk to him on air, off air. Like, he's one of the nicest people in college basketball. He's one of the best people in college basketball. He cares about kids. He cares about the true authenticity of college basketball and building these kids up as men. And it's just one of those things, like, I just want to root for him, and that's just what I believe in.
I agree.
Go ahead. I was going to say, I was rooting for them to win the title game too, especially because there's a chance that could be the best chance Kelvin Sampson has. Like,
it's probably the last real best chance. You're right. I hate
maybe next year. I think they've got a good roster next year. Like, they returned a decent couple pieces, and they have an NBA player coming in, Sinak. So, like, I think they'll be pretty good again. But like that there is a very likely chance that was the best chance they had. And
the more I hope nobody. Man, we're live. It is what it is. I'm gonna say it now. The point I made on Thursday when we did the pod about. I genuinely, the more and more, further and further we get away from Monday night, I think if he had won, I think he was done.
I do too.
I agree.
I straight up think it was over.
I agree.
I think it was, you could tell like that. He's very like, we're going to move on and the culture's going to do this. He said those things. I would have paid a lot of money to be in that room and just feel the raw emotion, because you can really tell, like, I think it really, like, I think he's going to think about this one the rest of his life. And I really, like, I know he's not that, it's about the kids, whatever, like, but you could really feel it. And I always point back to the conversation I had with him. I mentioned it to you guys. I don't think I've said this on air, but I asked him about Shed, about Cryer, about just these guys. Like, how do you build your program around these guys and how do you find them? And he just always kept going back to like their families and their men and their this. That's kind of how I ended the rant a minute ago. And you don't make it this far. Like, again, we talked about at the beginning with Todd Golden and analytics and finding these guys, whatever. There's a lot of good dudes on that Florida team, right? A lot of just good young men, right? But the way that Kelvin Sampson did it, and people are going to joke about the stuff, like I said earlier, with Oklahoma and whatever getting pushed out, like all that's going to come up, right? But like the way to do it, and for it to be this sustainable and be given this much patience and to prove that it really does matter. Like, honestly, I think it would have been more poetic if they had won it, because the way they've won it in college basketball in modern age, it honestly would have been one of the more unbelievable things in 11 years.
Look, and I completely agree on the sentiment. I think had Houston won that title last night, it may not have been last night, but it would probably been either today or sometime this week. You would have heard he would have retired and he would have handed the program down to his kid, because articles came out Sunday talking about there's this clause in his contract when he re-signed a new one or whatever, that he has right of picking the coach or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah, that's
so. Here's something I don't think gets talked about, and I've been thinking about this the last 24 hours. Kelvin Sampson was always great. He's been in this game for 50 years, right? 40 years, I think, at the head coaching level. Coached at Washington State. They won eventually. Coached at Oklahoma.
Wasn't he at like Montana State before it changed names or something crazy like that?
You'd have to look that up. I know back in the early 90s, mid-90s, he was at Washington State.
He was a head coach like the beginning of the 80s. I'm looking at it while you're going. Good.
So won there, won to Oklahoma, was going to win at Indiana, yada, yada. I actually think, the more I've been thinking about this, not that you ever want to get pushed out and have this scandal and all this other stuff, taking that time off, those couple years or whatever it was, off of college basketball, if I remember right, he was like an analyst or helped out an NBA team during that time.
Yeah.
I think it was
he was a Bucks assistant from 2018 and 2011, but there were some years where he was basically like it
was like a special consultant or something.
Yeah, but he wasn't. He was truly an assistant from 2008 to 11 with Milwaukee and 11 to 14 with Houston, which was, by the way, the beginning of James Harden's ascension to James Harden as we know him. Kind of interesting.
So those 6 years-ish that he was gone and was in the NBA, I think as crazy as it sounds for a dude that's been in that long, made him a better coach.
It did.
Because had he stayed at Indiana, they would have won a ton of games, and they would have been more than likely where Houston's at right now. But eventually, at this point, 17 years in, there's probably a burnout factor. Taking that time off, come back rejuvenated. He takes over a program that had history. It took a grind to build them up. Now you see where they're at. Sure. I was just thinking about that last night. It doesn't get talked about a lot. That time off, as much as it probably sucked, I think it helped him become a better coach, which is crazy to say because he was always a damn good coach.
He was at Montana Tech. Montana Tech in 1981 was the Montana one I was referring to.
It's same way with Bruce Pearl, like him being off and doing the SEC network those few years after he got let go by Tennessee. He's a better coach now at Auburn than he was at Tennessee, and he was really good at Tennessee. He's really good at Milwaukee and so on and so forth. So sometimes, Coach Parra, it can be a blessing in disguise. Let's hope that.
Because we're about to talk about Florida beating them for the next 15 to 20 minutes before we recap and get out of here, or do some other things and get out of here. I will just say this. This stat is basically irrelevant now because they didn't win the national championship, but it is what it is. Samson, I just wrote, this was just what I wrote, kind of getting my thoughts out on page here. We talked about the group. We talked about all this stuff, right? I joke about the Purdue thing. I get it. It was semi-satire, but it was one of the harder roads of any of the one seeds. It was. Let's just call a spade, playing on the road. They're the last one seed since 2017 UNC to beat 16, 8, 4, and 1 to make a national championship.
It's crazy. It's a crazy road. The last couple things on this Houston Duke thing, then we'll turn our attention to the title game from last night. That comeback. Emmanuel Sharp had not really shot it particularly well, but then he hits that three. It cut it down, I think, a 4-point game. They put that full court press on. Duke just act like they could not handle the ball, start missing free throws. They hit another three, and then they end up getting the win there. The final possession, Cooper Flagg again. Now, he didn't turn the ball over. He got the spot he wanted to, got it right in front of the rim, and left it short. A lot of the hot take topics that we try to avoid, how they are. They're like, well, if that's your number one pick and he's missing all these big-time moments at the end of the game, I wouldn't take him number one. Look, he had hard defense against him. Yeah, you probably wish he makes those plays in the Kentucky, Kansas, and Houston games. But what do you want the kid to do? He's a freshman in college that should be a senior in high school. He had a phenomenal freshman year. When you look at Duke moving forward, great year. Number one seed, make it to the Final Four. How do you look at Duke as a whole from this year, and what do you see going forward? Because to me, it only just a huge boost. And the flag discussion, like the hot topic BS, I despise that.
I want to come out here and say a lot of people I saw giving Shire shit for how they ended that game, and sure, I think they tried to slow it down a little too much, and they were trying to be too conservative. So I can see it from that angle, but I think people were just gravely overreacting to Shire. I thought that narrative was kind of insane. People were like, yeah, he didn't draw anything up for the last play. No, he didn't. He gave the number one pick the entire left side of the floor. What else can you? I mean, he's the best player on the floor. You give him side and say, get us a bucket. And if you don't, you live with the result. And you live with the result because the guy's going to go number one and he's going to make hundreds of millions of dollars playing basketball. You take that risk. It just didn't work out. So it
was Robert's defense that prevented the shot from even having a quality look. It wasn't don't get me wrong. Could it have been a better play? Sure.
It was Jimmy's and Joe's. It was Jimmy's and Joe's. I think that's what it came down to.
He still got it. He still got to a spot. That's the thing too. Even with the tough defense, he was able to get into the lane. What a 9-footer, 10-footer, and he just left it short. And I think a lot of that's to do too. The way Houston was so physical, it takes your legs away. Like when they wear on you for 40 minutes in a physical game like that, it takes your legs away. And it clearly he left it short. He did what we call gator arm it, and it hit the front iron. So look, I mean, the kid's going to be a 15-year pro, God willing, and healthy. He's going to be the number one pick. Yeah, 3 bad moments for the year, if you want to call them bad moments. But keep in mind, Duke does not have the lead they have the majority of that game if Cooper Flagg's not in that ball game. So, what do you want to do? You know what I'm saying? So, incredible comeback from Houston.
They didn't even make the Final Four or the National Championship game, and yet he still has, and I quote, the record. I'm pulling it up now. He has the record for the most. Let me find it. I just lost it. Oh, no. Bad me on the spot. He has the most points. I had it pulled up. Dang it. He has the most points. I'll find it. You guys talk.
Damn, Bruce Pearl. Did you lose your mind there?
Yeah, I did. I choked in the moment. I just did literally.
I'm just giving you a hard time. No, hopefully you'll find it. But look, great Duke year. They're going to be fine, like we talked about. They got the Boozer twins coming in. They got plenty of dudes coming in.
And let's put it this way: if there is a point guard transfer out there that is big time, Duke's going to be looking for you. Duke will be calling, and they will be having a legitimate point guard next year. That's for damn sure. That's what we learned in this game.
Yep.
I found it. I scrolled right past it. No player. Shout out to Jared Burson. I think all of us at one point have brought up some kind of stat that he's pulled out of his. You know what? I think he has some stats background with ESPN. No player in the history of the tournament, just I don't know, 100 years, whatever, has ever had more points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks in the tournament. He had 105 points, 38 rebounds, 25 assists, 10 blocks, 3 steals. He also, no one ever has had more combination of points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks.
Is that good? Is that good? I mean,
bad,
that's incredible. Give it. Yeah, I mean, you want the number one player, sure. You want him to make that shot. But look, he missed it. It's not going to define him. Duke had a great year. Cooper Flagg was awesome. We were blessed to get to watch him for 1 year in college basketball. Houston the story of the game should not be about Cooper Flagg missing the shot. It should be about Houston pulling one out of the fire yet again, down 6 with 30 seconds to go. Down 6, and they find a way to win that game. That's incredible. Manuel Sharp sparked it with that sidestep, shot fake 3, beautiful, and then they got the ball rolling on the press. That leads us to last night, Monday night, National Championship game on the line. 1 seed Florida, 1 seed Houston in the Alamo Dome. Awesome game. Houston, how should I say? They flipped their own script from Saturday. We just talked about Duke kind of controlled the majority of that game. Houston led the majority of this game. Florida's minimum win probability was 16 minutes to go. Now, this is a credit to Houston because when you find yourself down double digits to Houston, it is like trying to crawl through or walk through quicksand. Every step you take feels like you're making the progress, but you're actually sinking lower. With 16 minutes left to go, Houston was up 42-30. Florida's minimum win probability was 10.2% with 16 minutes left to go. That's what everybody thinks about Houston and their elite defense and the way they can cut off games with their tempo and controlling the pace of play and, of course, the physicality. 10.2% win probability for Florida with 16 minutes to go because they were down 12. I thought Houston's game plan was perfect in this game. They were physical. What was it? Within the first 6 minutes of the game, they had 7 offensive rebounds on a team of Florida who really rebounds the basketball. I thought Houston played this game to damn near perfection, except for the final 3 minutes and change.
Here's what's crazy too. It's like I still am trying to think back to like that final 3 minutes and change, and I don't think like they have LJ Cryer. He's not Jamal Shed. He's not Marcus Sasser. I think even he would admit that. I'm not going to sit here and do the opposite like I did for Auburn and blame the fact they don't have a guy. That's just not true. They had 5 of them that I think we're going to be fine. Sharp made the smart play of knowing he couldn't have touched the ball there. Like that's, and he, like he understood that. Like that's a smart thing in the moment. He tried to make up on fake. Like it was a great defensive play on Florida. Do you have a point on the Sharp thing? Did he not technically travel? Is that what it is?
What's up?
I thought you were going to say something about the.
Like, no. I was just going to say I think you just gotta put it up in that situation.
Oh yeah, just if you get blocked, you get blocked. Or some people were saying like just touch it again and then have like a chance to. I was like, I don't know. Like I get why he did what he did. Like I don't think he froze. I think he did what he was supposed to do in that moment.
Yeah, smart basketball play, honestly, because he knew he didn't want to take a chance on a double dribble. Yeah.
I mean, granted, hindsight's 2020. Oh, he should have just done that. Stop the clock. Like no.
Yeah, but we're only saying that because we know the result.
Correct.
Delaying the inevitable, more than likely.
Yeah. To your point, regardless of trying to find a reason for why I think Houston lost, because I don't think that's fair. To your point about basically 37 minutes of perfection, Eagle said it on the broadcast. Houston is 33-0 when holding opponents to fewer than 70 points. Florida, that was the first loss ever for them that they did not win once they held somebody under 70. Like that sums up everything for me.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Michael. 37 minutes of pure just game plan schematic perfection. You get your wins on the rebounding. You're worried about Florida's size, so you block them out. You actually dominate offensive rebounds early in that ball game. Mm-hmm. You have Walter Clayton, arguably the best player in this tournament as far as like making shots, the best guard. You had him so flustered in the first half that he was taking weird sidestep threes on double teams. Yes, he normally makes them, but it was just a different level that Houston was putting on him. The only reason Florida was in that game was because Will Richard gave him 14 first half points. That was such a credit to Houston. You don't turn the ball over. I think in the first 37 minutes, they only had, 4 turnovers? And then they had 4 of the final 3 minutes. That's heartbreaking, man. That's heartbreaking. But again, it shows exactly how good Florida is, that they could not play their game, be limited all game long, and then in a blink of an eye, they steal the game from you.
Yeah, Florida also, we know how good a shooting team Florida is, obviously. Houston was the best three-point shooting team in the country entering this game, maybe second. They were 6 of 25 from 3. Cryer hit 4, but other than that, you got 1 of 7 from Sharp, and that one they hit was pretty late. 1 of 2 from Wilson, 0 of 4 from Uzan, 0 of 1 from Terrence Arsenault. They weren't shooting it particularly well at all. So they were able to make those looks tougher. So the defense fully brought it. And then, just turnovers late, as you mentioned, they didn't get a shot up for the last minute. The game just gets recent. They just couldn't get the ball on the rim. Credit to Florida. They were forcing turnovers. They were forcing tough plays. And Walter Clayton made plays late. They were able to score quite well on the interior. Florida was in this game. That was kind of the difference. And Florida also got to the line 7 more times, made 8 more free throws.
I would argue Florida's defense. I would argue Florida's defense was reaching a crescendo by the end of it because their defense was elite the entire game. Yeah, because Houston could have got Houston can score 75, 80 points. Granted, that's the equivalent of Florida's 90. I get that. We're kind of moving the goalposts there, but it's real. That was the Houston's season low and with 5 assists. That was their lowest as a program since 2020. Florida's defense was elite the entire way, and that's the reason they won the game ultimately. And that's the moment we can cling to. But their defense was elite for basically 40 minutes.
Yeah. The final 4 possessions I want to talk about real quick, and I may have one out of sequence here, but it's the final 4 possessions. Florida comes down. Elijah Martin scores to go up 1. Houston's ball. They come down. It stays in Sharp's hands on the right side of the floor. He tries to blow by, and I forget who was guarding him. It may have been Clayton. Tries to blow by. Guard stays right in front of him, angles him off a little bit. Sharp cannot get downhill, turn a corner to get to the rim. Great ball pressure from Florida. great dig down from the corner, and then great weak side rotation, force an Emmanuel Sharp to dribble off his leg turnover. Florida gets it. They get fouled or whatever. Yeah, they got fouled. Aberdeen misses the first, makes the second, so it sets it up. Houston's got the ball, only down to chance to either tie or win this game at the buzzer. And Florida's defense in that final possession suffocated every potential handoff or pass that Houston wanted to make. They got the ball to Cryer. He tried to make something. They got it back to Sharp. He comes off, it looks like a half-hearted screen. And the play by Walter Clayton, who looked like maybe he got caught out of position sagging. Sharp goes up to take the shot, as we've talked about, but Clayton recovered so quickly that it froze Sharp, where he's like, uh-oh. And then that's where that ball, and then they don't even get a shot off. Those final 4 possessions were absolutely madness, but Florida's defense, man. If you needed 2 big stops for your whole year, those were about as picture perfect defensive stops as you could ask for. What a sequence of plays there on the defensive end by the Gators.
For a team that returned.
And you want to know what Florida's tied for Florida's largest lead of the game was? Right at the last second. They never led by more than 2.
That to me is the part I'm still like trying to absorb. Like it's insanity. And for a team too, by the way, like to credit the defense even more, like, because that's really ultimately the moment again we cling to that we should. To return 70% of their minutes. So basically return the over 50% of the core of their team, and to go from like the 70th defense last year to the 10th, and it'd be the reason you win the national championship. Remember the numbers thing I talked about earlier? Am I hitting on some of those things? They hit on those guys years ago, but it's also about development. It's also about taking those numbers and developing these guys and finding how ways to unlock even more defensive potential. That's exactly what the staff did.
Yeah, I mean, Ruben Chinyelu, the addition of Chinyelu, he was an excellent rim protector.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, just great defensive stands. Will Richard, though, man, like, save Florida's bacon, because that could have got, like, 12 was hard enough to come back. We talked about 10%, 10.2% minimum win probability with 16 minutes to go. If Will Richard doesn't give them 14 in the first half there, look, Houston could be up 20, and then that game may be over. As good as Florida is, or as great as Florida was, I don't know if they come back from 20. So Will Richard just stepping up, making shots in lieu of the absence of Walter Clayton and Elijah Martin making shots. It's just that's how you win, though. Guys who need to step up in big moments usually step up, and Florida had them. So the Gators, for the 3rd time in school history, are national champions. We talked about it from mid-January on, that they look like the most complete team in terms of they didn't have a visible weakness. They get it done, and I think it's apropos, too. We talked about the historic greatness of the SEC conference to put a team to kind of put that final stamp of approval on with a team from that league winning a national championship. Just what an all-time run by the SEC this year to stamp it with national championship. Florida wins. Now we kind of get to talk about, let's talk about some of our favorite moments. This is a celebration of the college basketball season. What a great year. We talked about the SEC's dominance. We could talk about Houston's run where they basically they only lose 1 game since November, the end of November, early December. We could talk about Cooper Flag and Duke. You guys give me some moments when you look back on this 2024-2025 college basketball season that really stand out to you.
You know what's tough for me is, like, I got so lucky last year. I saw 4 court storms in one season, and I'm just thinking in person. Like, just like, to your question, I just would feel weird picking like a game I saw on TV on 9 o'clock on a Tuesday. Like, I don't know. Maui, maybe lazy. I didn't go to Maui, to be clear. That came out wrong. I did not go to Maui. Maui, if I had to pick a TV game, would be my point. Man, I just kind of like. I feel terrible. Like, if any of these teams are listening right now, I apologize. These were great games. I appreciate the credential, but I don't know. Like, I just enjoyed being in gyms this year and getting to know teams a little bit better. And I think that was just, I hate to be sappy, but like, it was just, I think I grew professionally this year going into those games. And I can't really necessarily pinpoint a game, because like a lot of the buzzer, like I missed the FAU Berzovic one. Like, I just missed that. I wasn't home. Like, I regret that. It sucks. Like, I'll probably have a better answer for you after Michael goes and tells me 3 he's been to that were incredible. And I want to hear about these because I just enjoy being in gyms this year, getting to know guys more.
Now, I wasn't at any like buzzer beater type games. Like, just thinking of some off the top of my head, Auburn, Iowa State in November was awesome.
Memphis had one, right? What was Memphis's? It was like
Memphis. That was the game against UConn, right? Where it was just like, whoa, is UConn like, it was that game. Some of the Big East games were St. John's played in some like really thrilling games this year. Like they would get down and then.
Well, how about St. John's?
Villanova one at Finneran was incredible. Like I was watching for whatever reason, I was watching that one intently, and it was really good.
Villanova UConn was great too, and Villanova ended up winning that game. Eric Dixon just kind of went super sane. Let's think. There were a couple of others that I had on my mind that I just forgot as we started talking. The Houston comeback against Kansas was. Yeah. I feel like that's one of the craziest sporting events I've watched, period. I just watching that unfold in real time was crazy. Oh my God. JT Toppin, remember when he threw that pass and he kicked and like they gave him a flagrant foul for kicking in the nuts?
Yeah, that game was crazy.
Texas Tech still wins that game in overtime. That was crazy. I'm gonna have to scour through ESPN to see some teams.
Yeah, I was doing the same thing, and like I'll just say this: like I watched the team win 7 games in a row in some of the most improbable fashion, like in my backyard. Some of those were on the road. A 20-point comeback was in there somewhere. I mean, that run that Campbell went on in the middle of January, like they were like what were they? They were like the 18th best team in Bar Torvik. 18th, that run, like they were the number 1 scoring defense in the entire country for 11 games. Like that doesn't just happen. Like that, it was weird. Like I got texts every week, like I told you guys, like, hey, what's happening? And I'm like, I don't know. Like I watch this every day, and I just go, not a clue. It was great. Testament to the coaching staff, I guess.
How about this as one of the things I'll remember about this year is the year of the first-year head coaches at new programs.
Yeah.
What if it like Pat Kelsey revives Louisville in 1 year? Start off a little slow, but man, they had a great year. Gets them back to the tournament. Mark Pope has ties NCAA record for most top 15 victories in 1 year. Makes the Sweet 16. Kentucky hasn't done it since 2019. Kevin Young, first-year head coach just anywhere, takes over BYU, makes the Sweet 16. Dusty May wins the Big Ten Conference Tournament Championship in his first year at Michigan, coming from FAU, makes the Sweet 16. Even Cal, like he was a huge storyline, struggled most of the year, figures it out, gets the Hogs to the Sweet 16. I thought the first year,
they were a shot away from the Elite Eight.
Exactly.
Sure.
I thought the first year head coaches at new programs really had great years as a whole. If you look at it, I think that when we look back stands out because talk about momentum moving forward. Like that's how you build your program that you just got to. I thought first-year head coaches had a standout year this year for the most part.
The Caleb Love 70-footer comes to mind.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Amazing. Yeah,
I missed it. I'll be honest.
State, yeah.
I watched it back the next morning. I missed it, but that was a moment. That's for sure.
I was on Iowa State in that game. That was soul crushing, but like it was awesome also to experience it. I got a couple first-year coaches too that I wanted to give a quick shout at. Mid-major Mike over here. Drake this year, man. Sure. I am so glad I watched that team as much as I did. Bennett Sturts. I don't think there's a player in the country I'm more excited to watch again next year than Bennett Sturts. I love the way he's able to control a game. He's just so good. And I'm very glad I watched them when they went on that run. Were they in Charleston this year, Trev?
Drake, they won.
Drake was, they beat
Vanderbilt. They were in Charleston. Their run there.
Speaking of first year too, for Vanderbilt, I'm sorry. What's his name?
Byington. Yeah.
Mark Byington.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, sorry. I just had to get that out there.
Yeah. No, you are all good, Playboy. And then I watched Utah State a lot this year. The game they had against San Diego State, their comeback against San Diego State was awesome. Just the way they found a way to come back in that game. That game ruled. Just trying to think of other like fun games.
While you're doing that, how about? Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No. I had nothing, please.
No, I was going to say while you're trying to look at that, something else storyline. The not only first year head coaches, but how about the opposite end of the spectrum? The retirement and losing these longtime coaches. Jim Larinaga of Miami, gone. Tony Bennett, gone before the season begins. Leonard Hamilton, gone at the end of the year. What's this?
Change of the guard. That's for sure.
Yeah, at Iowa. We just talked about Bennett Sturts going to Iowa. Fran McCaffrey,
let
go. So longtime coaches exiting the game. I think we have to talk about that will be remembered this year, especially the Tony Bennett one right before the season begins. I know we kind of went on
because there was no clause in his contract about handing it off, right? Is that why? Yeah. That we're all like hindsight's 2020? No, I'm joking. Clemson winning those 3 games against 3 blue bloods, like that was really impressive. Like, I was just looking up and down of conference. It was hard to just filter games. There's like, how many games in a college basketball season is it? Like thousands? Like, there's so many. You can't just like go, oh yeah, let me find that one in January or whatever. I'm gonna start taking better notes of this because knowing this conversation's coming in a year, I'm gonna start a list of just the best games of the year and just see maybe we'll do something every year with it, like a video or something.
Yeah, that would be fun. How about the return of Tom Izzo?
I mean,
people thought that for a couple years
he never left.
He didn't, but this had a very like retro Tom Izzo feel to it. When people thought maybe he was on the backside of it, where he couldn't fit in with the new era, and he bounces back and they win the Big Ten outright regular, and they make a run to the Sweet 16, to the Elite Eight, and had them there. They played Auburn good, just they weren't the better team, but it was a classic Tom Izzo, and I think that's good for the sport too. Some of those older guys like Izzo and Kelvin Sampson sticking around and continue to be good.
That Michigan team was fun to watch all season. I really liked watching them.
I know it didn't end. I shouldn't even say this, but I'm going to. I know it didn't end delightfully. Maryland was really fun to watch this year as well. I really enjoyed Maryland, and then they make the Sweet 16, and then Derek Queen, and then the Crab 5, and then Willard absolutely takes the knife, turns it around, puts it in the back, and twists it. That I shouldn't have said for sure, but I did, and it came out. Oregon was really fun. UCLA was really fun. Like, I'm just plucking things out of the air. Like Indiana winning games down the stretch and making things kind of weird. That was kind of cool. It was really sick. I kind of enjoyed it as a sicko. It was kind of
the Gonzaga streak of Sweet 16 snapped at 9 this year. And unusual Gonzaga team.
Speaking of Indiana, kinda.
Oh, okay.
West Virginia going to Kansas and winning.
Oh yes, without their best player.
Without Tucker DeVries. Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
Shout out to the UC schools, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5 of the 6 best schools in the Big West, and they were 2 big storylines with San Diego and Irvine. 5 of the 6 best teams in that conference were UC schools. So what a year for the UC schools.
UC, I mean, that's one team I wish I watched a little more. That team was good. And then UC Irvine almost won the NIT too. They were a little bunny layup away from winning the NIT.
Yeah. Just a shot away. One of the bigger storylines, our preseason number 1, America's preseason number 1. The second year in a row, the regression of Kansas. They falter out of the top 25 the last 3 or 4 weeks of the regular season. They're only a 7 seed in the NCAA tournament, and they're bounced after one game. Kansas taking a step back after being the preseason number 1, I think was a massive storyline considering the expectations that we laid upon their feet at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. I mean, look, I could sit here and I'm scrolling. I'm down into the Ohio Valley, the Patriot. I mean, we're sicko level stuff now, but you could sit here and pluck 1,000 different things. Will Wade doing what he did again, shamefully. I know we're going to actually, that might be your segue to our teams, because we were going to talk about that anyway. So let's just do that now. Go ahead.
Let's do that. So as we look forward to the future, we closed the book on 2024 and 2025 college basketball season. We look now ahead to 25-26 season. And with that, it is way too early. I don't like way too early rankings. I understand why people do them. I've never been a fan simply because we don't know rosters. So take this all with a grain of salt. Some of us know at least a majority of them. Some of us are clearly still figuring out. We want to give real quick an opinion on our outlook for our teams looking ahead to next season based upon what we know, or maybe just kind of the vibe check heading into next year. Trevor, to me, look as an outsider for NC State, I'm excited for your program. You bring Will Wade in. You know he's a serial winner. He is going to bring talent in. I'm excited for the future of North Carolina State because I think they can win right away. What is your kind of overall vibes for the Wolfpack heading into next year?
Not only is it Will Wade, we have a GM that did not show his face on the internet for almost 30 years. He got a job in the NBA and no one knew what he looked like until about 8 months ago. And now he's the guy running the program and running the financials. So
I didn't know what he looked like until like 20 minutes ago.
Shout out to Andrew Slater, because people are going to know his name very soon if they didn't before, if they were not on college basketball and drafts Twitter, basically, for the last 20 years. it's exciting. Like Keats, obviously, I will never. Literally, I will be forever indebted to him till I'm dead because of what he did for me in my lifetime. If that's the last time that happens in my lifetime, because statistically, that is technically a high possibility. And so the fact that happened, I've actually come to thoughts with like that. I've actually been thinking about this overarching thought about that whole run, and I won't go through it today, but just I am forever indebted to Kevin Keats. But if you are an NC State fan right now, if you are the few that is not absolutely jacked up, ready to run through any brick wall on Hillsborough Street right now, you're insane. It like I'm not. He's not. He's not Bob Knight. Like I get that. Like people are like, oh my god, like he is going to bring energy to a program that, quite frankly, has needed energy since the 70s.
There's going to be a transfer recruitment this summer where some kid is a lock to go somewhere and their fan base is already getting excited for him.
It already happened.
And then that Tipton edit's going to come out and then it's just going to say NC State. And it's just going to be like, oh God. It's going to happen. If it hasn't, well, then it's going to happen again. Then it's going to happen again.
Yep.
You're
already happened. Gonna see the wolf. You're gonna see the wolf.
In-state 4-star flipped at the last minute. I'm just saying.
Look, there's good. I mean, DeRosa again as outsiders. I want us to comment on it real quick. Like,
yeah,
there's great reason to be optimistic because what we talked about when he got hired, he's going to come in and give a shot in the arm, or maybe in this case, a shot in the ass to Duke and North Carolina. Now, he's got a ways to go to catch Duke, but Carolina is on his doorstep right now where they've kind of taken a step back, where he can go get them in year 1 or year 2 and maybe surpass them immediately if everything goes right. That's exciting to me if you're a North Carolina State fan.
I mean, especially with Ian Jackson transferring now. Seth Trimble announced he's coming back, but like, if that happens, Trev, that would be I would be rolling on the floor.
We didn't get into players today, but he's a top 4 player I saw play live this season. That's all I'm going to say.
He's damn good.
It's Aiden Holloway going from Auburn, Alabama.
Yeah, that would be so funny. I would love that. Yeah,
kind of dope.
From a talent like that team, no matter what, that NC State team is going to have talent to some degree.
Yep.
Like that's just kind of what Will Wade does. I'm not high on Will Wade, the basketball coach, the X's and O's mind, as other people are. I'm not nearly as high on that, but no matter what, they're going to have talent and they're going to be exciting. And I think, considering the last year of NC State basketball, I think you take that without, and then even. I would say the last like 10 years, but like you had the run with Keats where they just like were amazing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know who you're talking about. Yeah. I know the name. But like aside from like the one Final Four run, like they haven't really had that level of like legit excitement sans for like a couple moments in seasons. Yeah, they're gonna have talent.
They've already returned. They've already returned the I don't know, the guy who has the highest scoring record in NC high school basketball history, who was a freshman for Keats last year, was really good. Already returned him. Already said he's committed. Remember the Jamaica Wilkins I talked about? You guys really liked. Michael said he's watching Belmont. Yeah, he's already said he's back. Just the beginning. Just building the bricks.
Vibes are high if you're a Carolina State fan, or at least they should be. Michael, your 2 teams, Georgetown, to me, they have really killed the portal so far based upon needs, getting a guy like KJ Lewis. To me, as an outsider, it feels like Georgetown is being dead serious about, like, let's get back to the NCAA tournament. I feel like they're putting a roster together, and Butler's it's going to take a little bit more, I feel like, for Butler, but talk to me about your vibes for both Butler and Georgetown.
Yeah, I'm going to start with Butler just because I have less to say. The roster is still being built as we see it today. They'll have a transfer big man on campus on Monday, per what I was told. Not going to give any name yet. That'll be another conversation for another day, but like maybe not Monday, maybe sometime after the dead period, we'll say. Yeah, I don't know. I want to dig in more on Michael Ajayi before that's a guy who I think has a legitimate NBA pedigree, like a legitimate chance to play pro ball. So I don't know. I'm not super optimistic. I think my expectations will probably be relatively similar to what they were coming into this season, which was about what we saw. So much of what I expect from Butler and how they place in the league depends on what other teams in the league do. So I think it's kind of hard to answer from that perspective because Xavier has 5 guys, I think, right now. Villanova's got like 3. So it's just kind of DePaul is still hunting down like big name transfers. So it really depends on what other Seton Hall's 5 guys too. So like it depends on what those teams build a roster. That my answer for Butler is pending, really.
I do I've texted you after almost every one of them. Like I like the names. It's all guys I'm like really excited about though. That's what made me think the floor might actually be a little bit higher this year.
What I will say is I'm a little worried. I dug into tape in these guys and I like them, both Jackson and Yame Butler. They're both Yame, excuse me. Both very good in ball screens and both fairly physical guards. Yeah. But at the same time, broadly speaking, the archetype of guard whose best attribute was physicality transferring up levels, those kind of scare me a little bit. Just just because you're going against bigger, stronger, faster guys. So I think I'm a little nervous from that POV, but I mean, Butler in particular has a really high ball IQ. Jalen Jackson too. Jackson showed he can score against Michigan, against who's Penn State. They play Penn State too. He had a really good game there too. So from that perspective, but I don't know. My expectations aren't going to be like stupid high, especially because it's really hard to find a good center, and I think this team really needs a good center. So we'll see how that plans out. And I want to tape Ajayi first before I have any take. Like if I just absolutely adore him, my take on Butler will change too. So yeah, that's what I got on Butler. If anyone has anything there before I dive into Georgetown, because I got a lot more to say. Even though
I mean,
Langdon and Keith, I'll just say that, and two guys in my literally in my backyard. Like, I'm excited. That's cool.
Yeah,
he's a freshman.
Yeah, like I was about to say, Jackson Keith. We talked about, I think, last episode. Like, I'm a big fan of his. We've had him on. I think he'll bring needed athleticism, and I think he can contribute right away. Ajayi, we've watched him for a couple of years now. When he gets going, he can really shoot from outside. And then Jalen Jackson played for IPFW. You know how I felt about that team. Yeah. I understand your concerns about physicality. I think sometimes talent just translates.
It does, yeah.
Like it'll translate. And plus, he'll have a whole summer to kind of get, quote unquote, P5 ready in the weight room. So I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with Jalen Jackson.
And to the Jackson point too, he's shown it against high major teams, right? Like it's not like we haven't seen it done. I think he put up 30 against Michigan when their team scored 60 points. So he had over half the points, something like that. And then against Penn State, I also watched that game back. He played really well. Like he played really well in both those games. So.
Against Ace Baldwin, by the way. Ace Baldwin Gardner.
No, because he so the way PFW ran their offense, I watched them a lot in the last couple of days. They ran 3 small guards. So it was Bello, this other 5'9" kid, and Jalen Jackson was at the 3. Yeah. So Nick Kern was guarding him. That is a long, athletic, 6'8", defensive-minded player. And Jackson was still getting his. And when they played Michigan, they had him on Danny Wolf. He's 6'2".
Little pass.
I think that says a lot about what they think of his defense. So I'm excited to see him in like a smaller role. I don't think he's a great shooter. Is the problem? Like I don't.
He's not. He's downhill. He's a downhill guard. Yeah.
So you surround him with shooters. Really, really good in ball screens. Makes the right read just about every time in my mind.
Yeah. Georgetown though. Georgetown. Yeah. So we can move on.
If you bring the big boy back, dude, this team is going to be really fucking good. If you bring you got to bring the big boy back. That's the guy who I would, if we're talking today, it's way too early, but if we're talking today, that'd be my biggest player of the year is the big boy, Thomas Sorber. If you bring the big boy back, that team's going to be really, really good. KJ Lewis is the type of transfer that Michael just adores. Like I loved to take Owe last year. Silas Demery going to UConn, sky high on. I like Jalen Sellers who went to Providence, just naming because he's a Big East guy, so I follow the league a little closer. But like I loved Otega Owe last year. Defensive minded, can play make a bit, guard, angry, have an edge to him. Those are the guys I love. KJ Lewis is right on that list. He is right there. The edge he plays with. I think if you get Langston Love fully healthy, big if, but like if he's fully healthy, I think that's a guy that could average 15 points a game in the Big East. Just shooting it, fits that roster really well. I think Malik Mack, you're going to get a better version of him in year 2. I think we kind of forget about development in the transfer portal era. Coming from Harvard, 17 points a game, I think people forget how talented he is. He's going to get it going, and he's going to be like learn how to play with these guys. Shagman is going to be my favorite player in the country next year. He's just going to be fun. He's fun. Yeah. And then off the bench, you got Paul the 16 takeover kids, Jaden Epps. If he's coming back, he's coming off the bench, and that's going to be a 25-minute a game spark plug off the bench. Your Lou Williams off the bench. That's going to be fun. Man, if you return the big boy, you have to return the big boy. But if you return the big boy, you're right, Josh. This is a team this should be an NCAA tournament team without a doubt. They should be a top 25 team in my mind. If you return the big boy,
Yeah, vibes are high. Look, they've had a good transfer portal.
10 out of 10, no notes.
One last
by the way,
thing
on Georgetown. 10 out of 10, no notes.
Yeah, year 3 was the year for Ed Cooley. It was the year they had to show you're ready for it.
Yep.
And after they lost Bryce Hopkins to St. John's, it's like, son of a bitch. Like, oh my God. Then it's just, you see, like, it's going to start going down. Nah, they brought in dudes. I really think KJ Lewis is an all Big East talent. I do.
You get him away from playing with Caleb Love for good or bad. Like, let him be on his own. I think that's a big improvement. Kentucky, real quick look. You got to, how do I say this? You've got to try to follow up what you did in year 1, which year 1 was a massive success. We've talked about this despite injuries. I pray to God we stay healthy. Yep. But look, you're bringing back core pieces. As of right now, we're bringing back Oteg Owe, Colin Chandler. You would imagine is due for a big sophomore year after what we saw at the end of last year. You're bringing Brandon Garrison. You're bringing back key pieces. So you had to go to the portal considering all the seniors you lost. Look, you bring in a guy like Cam Williams from Tulane, wing shooter. You bring in Mo Diabate, 6'7", can shoot, not his forte, but a tough nose, get rebounds, athletic, defend. There's versatility there. You bring in Jaden Quaintus. Everybody knows his talent coming off ACL injury with the surgery. We'll see, but man, what a talent he is. He talked about today on the radio about Pope really sold him on being in that Amari Williams spot where the ball's in his hands to initiate the offense, can get downhill and whip centers and bigger guys to the rim. Look, they brought in a lot of really good talent. The Jalen Lowe from Pittsburgh to run the point guard spot as an athletic dude who can get up and down, go create his own shot. There's going to be 4 lefties, not to mention a top 3 recruiting class from the high school ranks coming in. There will be playmakers. The 2 areas that we all agreed that Kentucky needed to improve on was athleticism and defense. And with these portal additions so far, they've addressed both of them. Because there's a world where you have a healthy Jaden Quaintance and Mo Diabate as like a 4-5 kind of small ball 4-5 that can literally switch 1 through 5 and you're good on anything because the way those two can defend. Figure out, go get one good shooter, like one great shooter. There's a couple that are talking about in the portal, and I think this roster's set to make a run. Like, you got to have hope in Pope, man. You got to trust him. I was annoyed with our fan base. I was like, oh, he can't close the deal. Just, he knows how to build a roster that works for him. Give him the benefit of the doubt, and they're coming through. The assistants have been great recruiting. Look, I have every reason to be excited that this team can really make a run. That's assuming Quaintance full health coming back from the ACL, and they keep Owe, assuming he doesn't leave, right? Mm-hmm. The offense will be beautiful. You seemingly filled every hole that you needed with athleticism and the defending, especially rim protection. Look, man, I'm trying not to, but I'm going to be excited by the time November rolls around, thinking this team could be a top 5 team at some point.
I'll just say I'm proud of you because you said really quick, and that was less than 3 minutes. You have the most complete team out of all of us right now. You have a team that can literally play tomorrow. Like, you have a roster is what my point. Yeah. And you got that done in less than 3 minutes. I'm proud of you. No notes. All you said, it's all right. It's all those guys are incredible players individually. And I think if there's ever a guy in the system right now that's going to make them all play together beautifully, I'll just point back to this one thing. When you brought up Amari Williams, I winked and pointed at you. And you know why? Because
of course.
I was the first person you texted whenever he was either rumored or when he went. And I was like, he's going to be really good. He's not going to be SEC first team, but I was very clear he's going to be fine.
He should have probably been first team, to be honest. Yeah.
And then and there's another guy I watched a lot. Watched him in high school, right? Arizona State. Obviously didn't watch him because too far away. But I immediately I think I'm going to have the same conversation with you this time next year, and I'm going to be right about Jaden too.
I hope so, man. That's a lottery pick talent right there.
Yeah, without a doubt. He was, even this year, I think he was one of the best 7 to 10 rim protectors in our sport.
Most statistically, he was top 3 most of the year. Yeah. I believe it was Wilson over at Queens. I think was kind of the guy jockeying with him statistically, at least. Yeah,
Queens was awesome. And I mean, you saw the difference in how good Arizona State was when he was healthy versus when he wasn't. Arizona State was fine when he was healthy. They weren't great, but they were fine. They were a decent team.
They were in our top 25 earlier in the year.
And then when he was
First
out,
one to vote him in. First one to vote him in independently. I was very proud of that. And then they did what they did, but
Yeah.
neither here nor there.
I mean, Bobby Hurley teams do the same thing every year. It'll happen again next year. Like they're just they are who they are who they are, who they have been. But yeah. Wayton's is going to be. I don't know the full details of the SEC and who comes back and who doesn't. But if you want like a somewhat sleeper, somewhat not really for SEC Player of the Year, it's Quaintance. Yeah, and
I agree.
Jalen Lowe's an NBA player. I don't know if I've said this on air or off air when we talked about Pitt. Yeah, that's an NBA guard. The fact that Capel's underperformed with 2 back-to-back NBA guards, I think is kind of insane, and he's still going to have a job. But yeah, Lowe's an NBA guard. His jump shot wasn't falling this year. I think he was playing hurt towards the end of the year. He's a better jump shooter than I think it's like 28%. I was just looking at it. Yeah, 27% from 3. He's a better 3-point shooter than that. But yeah, athletic and
go ahead.
And he's going to be next to Otega Owe. That's going to be a really good defensive backcourt.
Yeah. I was going to say a Pittsburgh beat writer had messaged one of the Kentucky writers and told them, you guys are going to love Jalen Lowe, that his shooting numbers were down because he took some bad shots on a bad team, kind of had to. Those numbers should go up on a good team and surrounding with shooters, and those assist numbers will be off the charts. And by the way, a couple key players just to keep an eye on that I think will get slept on. I mentioned Colin Chandler, so I won't say him again. Cam Williams, 6'7", 6'8" wing that can 3 and D, like really get after it. Got a lot of eligibility left. I think could be special in this offense. And the freshman Jasper Johnson can play. 4 lefties on this Kentucky roster now. I don't know the last time we've had 4 lefties. That should be fun. But so now that we're put a bow on this season, year 7, what do we have in store coming up for the summer? Well, we're going to take a little break. It won't be as long as last year. Last year, we took like a 2-month break before we did anything else. We will take a week, 2 weeks, whatever, but we will come back at you with summer shows. We will have special stuff. Like we will do exclusive interviews. We've got a couple lined up down the pike that you guys really enjoy. Some high major assistant coaches coming on. One we may have just talked about. We will do exclusive interviews like you guys are used to from us. We will do fun retro shows. We haven't done that in a year or two, where we'll take old games, put our own commentary over it. It'll be fun. Like we've done it before. People enjoyed it. We will do fun, maybe we'll cover the TBT. We will have exclusive stuff.
I'm going to be in Charlottesville. I'll just go ahead and say it now. I'm going to be in Charlottesville for the first round in Charlottesville.
Perfect. So we will have content coming at you through the summer, leading up until the magazine release and the start of college basketball, where we can officially begin talking about preseason rankings and everything that matters. So you will get content from us this summer. Year 7 has been amazing. And it's because, look, 408 of you tuning in on a Tuesday night after a national championship game to listen to us talk about this. Year 7 was our best year we've ever had. A huge thank you to Coach Scott Para for being with us for the majority of the year. That really helped. We were just blessed by his presence. Dusty May, Andy Kennedy, Sean Miller, Pat Knight, you name them, we had them seemingly. Huge leap in followers. The growth of the production we were able to put out with the different thumbnails, the content we were able to give you. I felt like we all elevated our game as far as knowledge and the way we present it to you, but almost humor too, because we want to keep that humor aspect of it too. Year 7 was the best year we ever had. Now we turn our attention to year 8. And year 8 has got to be better than year 7. And it is our mission to make sure that year 8 is the best year we ever had. But you guys have anything to say before we close out year 7 officially here? Because I'm blessed. I'm thankful for our people and what a year we've had.
Thankful for the support. It's been really, really cool. I asked Phil, I was like, 3 years ago now? I was like, hey man, I want to do this thing. I want to write, want to do this, want to do that. I was like, yeah, I'll do the podcast every now and then. Sure. And it's been really, really cool. I'm really appreciative of you two guys. And obviously Coach Para, man. Yeah. I love that guy to death. He's just one of the best dudes in this business. The work doesn't stop. We'll take a break, but I've got some really cool stuff I'm working on article wise that I think will be really neat. House-enterprise.com.
Yeah, I've already started taping transfers. Apparently I was like, oh yeah, I have some time. I'll be able to dig into Yame Butler and Jalen Jackson. And then my team's landed 7 commits. So thanks very much. Yeah. So got a lot of work coming up on that. But man, yeah, this year was so much fun. I mean, just getting on to be able to talk hoops with you guys. I genuinely don't know if there's anything better in life than just being able to sit and talk basketball. So, I mean, it's a blessing.
Sure.
Everyone who supported, watched even from 1 second to a full show to many different shows. Thank you very much. Truly. This is so much fun. I love
people like Connor too. Like he doesn't have to be here the moment this thing turns on. And with the time, like I'm the reason we started at 6:30. Sorry, but he's still here. Like there's people, and I'm just using him as the one example right now, but like 412 people, like even if you're just saying, like Michael said, even if you just turn off for a second, like the Facebook group grew I think it was the biggest year it's ever had as well.
It was a large number.
Like it doesn't even begin to like compel, like when I talk about just like what it really means for people to actually like comment, even if it's like, you hear about like all press is good press, even bad press. It's like, whatever. But the amount of people that actually truly comment on things and actually care and actually want to give their opinion back for a reason, knowing that we're going to answer in an authentic way is just that to me is just, I think is something that really shows how something like this can grow.
Yeah, so. I completely agree. And like the nice messages from not only, I guess you'd call them fans, supporters, but like people like coaches and people in the media that will go out of their way to, whether it be tagging us on Twitter or in a private message or be like,
thanks, Sammy. Thanks, Sammy D, baby, tagging us and everything.
Yeah, like you guys do an amazing job. So we appreciate it. Year 7 was a smashing success. We are now turning our sights towards year 8. We will, like I said, take a little brief break. If there's any breaking news, we'll have a video come out. But until then, expect a video in maybe like 2 weeks. And then we'll get the ball rolling with some fun summer shows. We got content coming at you all summer long, baby. This train keeps a rolling. But wrapping up one last time, closing out year 7. For all of us here, thank you guys so much. College basketball this year was an amazing season. Florida is your new national champions. We will be back in a couple weeks as we turn our attention towards year 8 and the 2025-2026 season. For all of us here, we appreciate you, and we will catch you down the road.
Ciao, ciao.